but isn't Tomagatchí her new favorite pet?
Yes.
So what's that make me, fish sticks?
Oh, are you hungry?
Oh, no. By all means, feed it. Play till your heart's content.
Look, Goldie. I took good care of her, and she changed again.
Change? How about changing some water here?
Often when a user wants to do something in virtual reality, they want to be immersed in an experience. The thing could be bashing monsters in Skyrim, it could be visiting digital worlds with people around the world in VR chat, or it could be creating artwork in Tiltbrush. This experience forms the backbone of every user's time in VR. These are the base level realities that people are opting into when they put on the headset. They expect to spend somewhere between tens of minutes and several hours in these experiences before they take the headset off and pop back out to the real world. But there's another kind of interaction that many users want that is poorly served by building it into a fully immersive base level world. These are the kinds of things that you would do for seconds or minutes at a time, rather than hours. They are tools or applications that run in the background while you are doing other things. They are the things you would do while waiting at a load screen or while taking a breather before diving into the next quest. In many ways, the tools I'm talking about here are the same things you would use your smartphone for in the real world. Checking email, yelling at someone on Twitter, streaming music from Spotify, getting a notification that you're about to be late, or pulling up a note-taking app to write down something you want to remember later. Almost none of these applications exist in VR. A few early steps have been made in this direction. In 2015, SteamVR added an overlay interface that allows applications to draw rectangles of arbitrary content on top of whatever main app the user is running. That was later extended to support 3D Panorama. This has resulted in a few applications, including OVR Drop and OVR Toolkit. These let you interact with desktop windows from inside VR. Pluto VR lets you chat with your friends, and Churn Signal tells you whether you should turn left instead of right to avoid wrapping yourself up in the wire. Oculus later built similar desktop window functionality into their system, Direction with Dash 2.0, and building these applications using the tools available have turned out to be difficult for developers. The biggest reason for this is the existing overlay interface exposes the wrong set of primitives. They allow applications to produce 2D textures and accept laser mouse input from the system. Exactly how to wrangle a UI system into producing off-screen textures is left as the developer's responsibility. If the developer wants to draw something more complex like a 3D model, the difficulty increases significantly. Laser mouse interfaces work for 2D desktop windows, but most other applications need some kind of 3D spatial interaction if they really want to be VR native. Enter Aardvark. Aardvark is an augmented reality layer that incorporates multiple applications or gadgets on top of existing VR worlds. These gadgets can come from any number of different authors and all draw and work together to provide the user with a set of standard tools they can bring from one VR experience to another. No gadget takes up your entire view. They are all expected to work in concert, not just with each other, but also without interfering with the base level world that we previously talked about. An Aardvark gadget is inherently spatial. Instead of handling a 2D quad to be composited, a gadget provides a scene graph that can include quads, models, transforms, and any number of interactive components. This graph is then rendered together with all the other active gadgets' graphs to produce a single layer on top of the base level VR application. This eliminates strange depth behavior between gadgets. It also allows gadgets to interact with each other much more directly than is possible with overlay applications. So that was a Medium post by Joe Ludwig from the Aardvark team. And I immediately am excited for this because I think it means that we'll start seeing the introduction of applications that really bring the functionality of, like mentioned, iPhone type application games to virtual reality. Because the main issue a lot of the times, and I'm sure many people that are in VR right now or very familiar with it can relate to, is like when you're in an immersive VR experience and then you have to tab out of something, it completely breaks the immersion because it just doesn't flow. I think Oculus and Steam have done an okay job at implementing the 2D window that with the tools we're given. It's still early technology, but the ability to perhaps just look at the wrist and open up a window in a much more streamlined way, or even have other applications developed within the application. So we're talking like meta apps, if you will, meta apps, if you will, meta apps, meta applications, applications within the base level application, which immediately that brings my mind to the old, I'm talking about those old Tomagatchis, dude. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about Neopets up in here. Let's do some VR Neopets. VR Neopets. But yeah, the ability to like have a little pet, like a dog or a little dragon that is in the application with you, but isn't natively in the application, if you get what I mean. So being able to just like jump from game to game and have a consistent application that jumps in between would be dope. And I think that's what Aardvark is attempting to do. Now, looking a little further into Aardvark itself, I think it's only a Steam VR application. Yeah, it can only be used in Steam VR applications, which is interesting to me because I really do think Oculus is shooting themselves in the foot by going the Apple route and trying to close off their software, because now they're closing themselves off to the amazing minds that are developing groundbreaking stuff like this that can immediately hook into an open source and an open platform such as Steam VR. I'm sure the route that Oculus is taking is like, hey, let's get all the indie guys to develop some great stuff for Steam VR, and then we'll watch it, and then we'll create our own in the Oculus or Facebook Reality Labs. Which, I mean, that's definitely, that's a route to go. I don't think it's the best route personally, but hey, Zuck gonna do what Zuck gonna do. but regardless, I think at least we still can use Steam VR with Oculus headsets and Oculus headsets with Steam VR. So we won't miss out on any of this functionality. But yeah, I mean, I think this is an exciting step forward. I think it's something that will bring a new wave of not only applications, but ways of thinking about how to develop applications, right? So, if you're a developer listening to this, like the ideas now that we can think of aren't limited by a screen, and aren't limited even by the augmented reality on a phone, right? Like you're looking through the phone window. I feel like that's the first iteration of reality-based augmented reality, but now we're talking about virtual-based augmented reality. And we are not, because everyone has the glasses on already. They're not holding up a phone in VR and then looking through that window to view the AR application. It's actually now, they already have the glasses. So now the applications can be built for that, which is exciting. I think it's going to bring on some great stuff. So Aardvark, great job over there. Today's episode is brought to you by Metaflix. Metaflix is a streaming service from Disrupt. It has exclusive shows and experimental content, all themed around technology, gaming, and the virtual reality universe. You can get full access for $2 a month, €169, or sign up for a free account to access limited shows, with new content added weekly. That's Metaflix, metaflix.net. Folks, hey, if you want to join the show, you can head on over to the virtualexperience.link and click the little message box. I'd love to hear from you. You can basically just record a message and send it over. This question is from Oliver Biddle.
Yo, Jack, it's Donut Dude. I wanted to ask for your opinion on this, where spirituality as a game mechanic. So you have a brain-to-computer interface or some other way of measuring your bodily sensory perception, and you basically, to level up in the game, you must level up your consciousness in real life. So you meditate, lucid dream, out-of-body experiences. All that could be so not fully tracked, but in a way recorded, for privacy reasons, to make it not exact, but to basically level up spiritually as a game mechanic, and eventually get to the point where the lucid dream becomes the metaverse, the external perceptual universe, that it's like all collective, where the very act of lucid dreaming, out-of-body mechanics, or meditation becomes the actual game. Like, you don't need any technology.
That's a doozy of a question. That's a real doozy right there. That's an interesting question. Okay, spirituality as a game mechanic. I think it's a little hard to define spirituality itself. That it means a lot for a lot of people. It means a lot of different things for a lot of people. But I'm going to assume here, and for the sake of this thought experiment, let's replace spirituality with the act of meditation, right? Because that's the only way I can see it relating in a VR game itself, right? But I imagine personally, like, okay, say like a warrior class. Right, so you're going through like a role-playing game, and you are a warrior, and you're entering the wonderful land of Shogun. It's a land of Japanese ancient warriors, but there's a deep, dark, evil force throughout the world, and you must go and save it. So you walk up to your dojo and you begin the path of the warrior. You must train your mind as well as your arm to fight the forces. That's what your sensei says. So in VR, the sensei hands you the sword, and you pick it up. But before you can advance your fight, you must sit and stare at this stone. I'm talking some Mr. Miyagi level stuff here, right? You're talking about like, man, bro, I want to start, fighting. I want to freaking fight some dudes. But Mr. Miyagi out here telling you to sit down and stare at a stone, all right? But it's important. So for level 1, before you can even begin to be a warrior, you have to sit there in VR, in-game, cross-legged, down in your play space, and stare at a stone for 10 minutes. All of a sudden, we have meditation in a game. Whereas I look to, PS2 games, PlayStation 3, Xbox, that idea of a meditation mechanic, of a spiritual mechanic in a video game is like, it's not even really there because the peripherals aren't there. Like you can't really make someone just like stare at a screen without actually being able to track their head, because otherwise it's just kind of a not fully fledged out mechanic. But I think with the introduction of these extra peripherals that connect to our head, that connect to our body, you can track it a little more. You can create more gamified versions of these things. Or another example, like Tai Chi, adding that to an actual kung fu game. So you are leveling up not only your actual skills using game mechanics, slashing, killing, but you are practicing the mind. You are practicing energy movement throughout your body with virtual reality. So that's really what my mind immediately goes to when the question of like spiritual things as a mechanic. I think it's interesting. Now, the second layer of the question, I think, had to relate to lucid dreaming, having these altered states of experience and connecting it to virtual reality. I think a level of that will be possible with brain-to-computer interfaces. I truly do. I think we will be able to sit there, put on a VR headset, and move around, slash monsters, just by thinking. I think it may be a different type of game, though, because there's still something fun about getting up and actually moving, right? Slashing with your hand versus just thinking to move. So I think it will be like two genres. I think there will be the BCI type games as well as like the fully movable games, and maybe a mix between the two. I don't know. Now, if we're talking about lucid dreaming, I think, man, it gets really difficult when we start thinking with the eyes closed, because now we're getting into the level of like sending images to the brain. I don't know. Maybe Neuralink will figure that out. We'll crack the brain, the projection to brain, the BPI, the brain projection interface. So we're not only computing with the brain, which is possible now where we can think to do things, but things are being sent to the brain. When we get to that level, I'm out. So real quick, I want to talk about an application, or a game rather, a metaverse game called Neos VR. And I've talked about this a little bit on the YouTube channel Disrupt, but I really just kind of want to do another check-in with it, because these guys over at SolarX, they are doing some incredible work. And being a pretty much independent team, I think they're self-funded via Patreon, so it's all community-based. I don't believe they have like investors in their company, which, yeah, no investors found. Apparently 3 people employed by them. This could be a little bit out of date, but I mean, for being an independent company, they're based out of the Prague, Czech Republic. I mean, incredible stuff. So they just recently released an update to their UI, their user interface update. And before, it was a little difficult for a new user to really jump into the system. But I'm just going to play the video for those that are watching, and I'll describe it for those that are listening, because they're doing some groundbreaking stuff.
So really, really beautiful design. And you can even, another cool thing about it is you can actually peer into it and look into a world before even entering it. So this is one of Moki's worlds, and you can see they're doing logics right now.
So they're basically describing a new world UI system that they have, and it's a very streamlined process. They just have a list of all the different categories of metaverse type worlds that you can enter in the fully metaverse, in the fully multiplayer application itself. But what interests me is that they've developed this thing within it. So you can basically hover over the world, right? You can hover over it and then drag your controller around and view the world before you even enter the world itself. That's what he was describing in the video. So it's almost like a 360 panorama of the world to preview it before entering. On top of that, what they've developed in this is sort of like a world caching system. So you can enter a world itself, and then you can enter another world, and then another world, and then you can open up your wrist menu and switch between those worlds in real time. So it's all cached. You're basically in all 3 instances, and you can switch in between them, which is mind-blowing when you actually use it, because the implications of that is like, okay, I could have my apartment, my personal metaverse apartment open, and then I could, have the cafe open, as well as a lecture from a professor, right? And I could just switch in between all 3 of those on a whim. And I think that's what what Neos has going for them in terms of just one of the many features that I think is really going to bring this game to another level. And it's only getting started. So I highly recommend checking out Neos VR. A great experience being developed over there, and I look forward to seeing more of it. Yeah, it's gonna be a cool time. I genuinely think this is the platform that we will see the first iteration of the metaverse in, if we're talking about something that looks and feels the most like what we are all imagining, right? Something that looks and acts and operates the most similar to something like Snow Crash or science fiction type books, Ready Player One, etc. So Neos VR, highly recommend it. Hey, that's my time. Thanks for listening to the virtual experience. I hope to see you next time. Peace out.